did such a good job of packing, I can't even find anything.
What's that?
How many bears you feeding up your place?
I don't know. They've seen them around, but neighbors.
When they come to my place, they're all coming from this place. I figured you got something going on up on top of the hill.
Where are you at?
You know where Marv lives?
Yeah.
His neighbor.
Oh. Yeah, they like to cross that corner a lot.
Seen 6 different ones so far this year.
Have you?
Up for sure. That are different. 6 different ones.
Huh.
Do you mark them with paint?
The one that come through last night was Marv with a pack of porcupine quills. Right on the shoulder, he Marv with porcupine quills.
Yeah.
Good giveaway.
Thank you.
What grade of stone is that? I thought I took the other one too, but
You watched it?
Looks like 6A crush or 25A crush, probably. Like 3/4 inch.
no,
Smaller,
smaller.
25A.
What is it?
25A.
25, eh?
Yep.
Because the 3/4 inch, like the stuff you use for septic system for
No,
rainfalls.
that's inch and,
That's what?
that's inch and
Oh,
So,
what, 3/4?
just
Roughly?
roughly 3/4 of an inch, you know,
Yeah,
mostly.
well,
If
that's
it's
what we.
half inch, then it's 25A. If it's 3/4, it's 6A.
Well, we had the first part, then we got the second part. I just can't remember what size they
Yeah,
are.
I'll drive by and look at it. I can tell you.
Take the green fields, though. Good night.
Huh?
What he's got in the yard.
I think, is that what I delivered before
What,
to you? Did we deliver that?
the little stuff,
Roy and I did for,
yeah.
I almost think it was 25A.
I mean, it packs down well and everything's been good with it,
No,
but
it's crushed. All righty. You on? Ready?
We're ready.
All right.
We're live.
Let's call the meeting to order of the Green Lake Township Planning Commission, 6 PM, Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, at the Golden Fellowship Hall. Pledge allegiance. Roll call, Pat McDonald.
Here.
Clint Klabundy.
Here.
Sarah Sullivan.
Here.
Colin Schwarm here. Richard Bark.
yes, sir.
Bradley Dean. Here. John Schuster.
Here.
Approval of the agenda. Anyone have any comments, changes, additions, subtractions?
You want a motion for the agenda?
Yes, please.
I would move to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda by Bark. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by John Schuster. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from May 28th, 2024. Anyone find any additions, changes,
I did.
corrections? Okay. What do you have?
It is on page 2 at the very top, the first full paragraph there. Mr. Cheever, and there it looks to be some extraneous words there. So I believe the would Where are my glasses?
What are you're saying?
There's about 3 words there that need to be, I think, stricken.
Or would it be Mr. Cheever would like to state that he does not?
Mr. Cheever does not feel like it's been resolved.
Oh, okay. So you would like to stricken would like to that he?
Are you sure you didn't say it this way? I'm just curious.
Well, that could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it? So what would you like to note as a correction?
Oh.
Totally. Well, I mean, what part of that would you,
I would strike the words, would like to that he. I believe that makes the sentence clear.
okay. Anyone else have any corrections, additions, changes?
I do have a spelling correction.
Okay.
Probably 5 or 6 lines down, it says, the sentence is, when they do, they are slamming on their brakes, but brakes would be B-R-A-K-E-S.
Same page.
2, 3, 4, 5, let's see. Looking for it, where is,
8 lines down in that same paragraph. Second word in.
say it again, what would you like to, so you,
Just changing the spelling of the word brakes to B-R-A-K-E-S.
Oh,
John charges more for those.
Actually, somebody give a good deal, so.
okay. Anyone else see any corrections, additions, subtractions? Someone like to make a motion to approve with the changes as written?
support.
I asked if someone would like to make a motion, so would you like to make that as a motion?
I thought you just made the motion.
I just asked if someone would like to make a
Oh,
motion.
sure.
Motion by Bart,
Second.
supported by Sarah. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Changes. First public comment. Anyone wishing to comment from the public? As we have no public, we will move on to conflict of interest. Anyone feel I have a conflict of interest for tonight's proceeding? No conflict of interest, correspondence. The only correspondence I really see is just this handout for the MDOT work that's gonna happen on US 31. That's nothing necessarily pertaining to our business tonight, just informational. No old business. We will move to new business, which is PowerPoint presentation by Susan Lighthouser?
That's good.
Okay. We of Housing North.
Evening, everybody. Can I just?
Can you pull that over?
Sure. Is it?
Now that one's
Button on the underside, yeah,
not. Well, button up on green.
or top side of
Yep.
yours.
Testing, all right, there it is. So thanks for having me tonight. Are you familiar with Housing North? Anyone? All right, I see one nod, that's good. We are a housing advocacy, small nonprofit. We serve a 10-county region of Northwest Michigan. Was founded about 5 years ago by some other philanthropic organizations based on the recognition that there is housing affordability challenge in Northwest Michigan, and I think it's gotten worse, particularly in the last couple of years since interest rates have increased. The pandemic didn't help. Lots more people wanting to move to Northwest Michigan when they realize they can work remotely and maybe don't have to be in an urban area in order to go to work every day. So, so we do a few things. And I'm going to try to keep this presentation to 10 minutes. I promised Isaac, so that you can, not spend too much time here in a meeting. But if there are topics that you'd like me to go more deeply into, can address questions tonight, or we can follow up at another time. I'm covering Grand Traverse County, so I attend a lot of planning meetings, and recognize that there are some common challenges throughout. Most recognize that we'd like to have more housing for households, particularly on that average to lower end of the spectrum is where most of the challenge is. But interestingly, can be difficult to find a $500,000 or $600,000 home sometimes. So Housing North addresses the challenge through awareness, presentations like this, advocacy, both at the local and the state level, and capacity and resources. So I'll bring some of those resources. I'll present some of those this evening, just to make you aware that there's some resources for you, both financial and informational. The housing challenge, does this group, have you, in your opinion, or in your experience, do you feel that there's a housing shortfall in some sectors for certain price ranges? Is that something that's affected?
We need more housing, but prices is a big thing.
Price is a big thing, agree. So I think average construction costs in Grand Traverse County is somewhere around $400 a square foot for a single family home, which is higher than in some other areas of the state and country. One of the things that construction costs, absolutely. Infrastructure, water, sewer versus septic, roads, sometimes labor shortage, and particularly framers have to be imported from Grand Rapids, I hear often, or from other areas. In some municipalities, the property taxes are a challenge because it's very challenging to make the numbers work or make the project pencil, so to speak. If you're going to rent it, you can only rent it for this much. If it costs you this much and your operating costs are layered on top of that, that of course creates a challenge. So, and then zoning. And that's something, I understand you just recently updated your master plan, so congratulations on that. I know that's a heavy lift. Often some modifications to zoning ordinances follow that based on what the decisions you've made in the master planning process. There are some, so I have a couple of tools and some information I can bring from other local municipalities. Liberalizing zoning is something that many municipalities have done, particularly, allowing for duplexes or ADUs in certain areas of their geography. And then there's also, in some cases, an effort to just simplify the process of permitting. And I can add more color to that if that's something you'd like to hear more about. This illustration, I don't know how well you can see that from back there, but this is the 10-county area that my organization covers. So one of the nice things is that if you're experiencing a particular challenge, someone in that 10-county area probably also is. So we can compare notes on, on how different municipalities have worked to problem solve. So when just a little bit on kind of the verbiage that I'm using. When we talk about affordable housing, actually I try not to say affordable housing because it has a bit of a negative connotation, but when housing is affordable, it means that the household is spending no more than 30% of its income on its housing expense. And so when households are spending 50%, for instance, obviously that leaves less resources for other necessities of living. The biggest challenge, although honestly, it's a challenge, and I think all the way up the spectrum as far as the availability of inventory. But the biggest challenges that you can imagine are kind of in this sector. So AMI is average median income, area median income. So those folks that are making less than average have the hardest problem, and those are typically renters. Often they're going to be in multifamily housing. But even up to this 80 to 120% AMI, area median income, that's an average income, right? And in Grand Traverse County for 2024, the area median income was actually pretty high, 99,800. So that data just came out recently, and that was kind of a surprise to me. That sounds like a pretty good household income. Those are folks who ordinarily would be buying houses, but you can't build a house really it's tough to do it for under 400,000. If your price per square foot to build is $400, 1,000 square feet is $400,000. So we're also working to try to drive that cost down through various measures. And frankly, some of it can be shifted through subsidy, but that's not my personal favorite. So the rental needs the housing needs, Housing North did a study, commissioned a study, late 2022, early 2023, so it's already a little bit outdated, but that sought to identify characteristics of the households in the area. We did it for Grand Traverse County, all of Northwest Michigan, and drilled down to Grand Traverse County as well. These are the number of housing units, new housing units, for which there is a need between that 2022 timeframe where the study was done and 2027. And a number of those are, for that 80 to 120% of area median income who would really like to buy. We'd like them to be able to buy. And so that's the green is the need for owned units, and the purple is the need for rental units. And going into Green Lake Township per the 2020 census, population about 6,664. Hopefully that sounds about right to you, who have a lot more direct experience than I do. It's pretty.
Definitely going up.
I would imagine. It's somewhat, it's not super dense, but it's denser than, say, a Mayfield or Union, some of the townships further south. 228.4 people per square mile. Most of, can I make this bigger? Are you able to see this from back there?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. So predominantly single-family homes, a little bit of mobile representation, about 6% mobile homes. And vast majority owner-occupied with 90%. And because there's some vacation homes, it had a fairly high vacancy rate of 24%. And I think that's just the seasonal effect. So some characteristics, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but new master plan adopted this month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it has to go through several steps, right,
Yes.
to be approved. So again, congratulations. I know that's a big time commitment and a lot of work. Related zoning updates, I'm assuming might happen just because I see that as the typical pattern. I think ADU is special use, not a by right use. My question was whether there's a perceived attainable housing shortfall, and at least for some of you, there is. Water and sewer structure is mostly well and septic, which really impacts what can be built, right? Like you can't do a big multifamily like you could in, say, a Garfield Township or some of the other areas nearby that have that sewer infrastructure. Some comments about the road and transit infrastructure, so a roundabout planned and some additional trail connectivity planned. Public sentiment, always a factor when making plans of any kind. There are a couple of influential entities. I mentioned Interlochen Arts Academy in particular, because I'm assuming that brings a lot of population into the area, all of whom will want some sort of housing. So every community is unique. So when I talk about resources that I can bring from state level or from other areas, everybody does things a little bit differently based on the characteristics of the community. But there are a couple things that I can offer. Like, this is a hot link, the zoning reform toolkit. This is something that was put out by the Michigan chapter of the American Planning Association. It's kind of a good read if you're in the space. If you're not in the space, it's pretty dry. But it just gives some suggestions for zoning reform. Think of it as a menu. Some might work for you, some may not. But they're ways to catalyze more housing development. There's also this housing ready checklist, which I'm going to provide links for all of these. Housing ready checklist actually is a great discussion document for a planning board, because it just is questions about what you have now and what you might want to have in the future, and it kind of catalyzes or gives you discussion points, for your own group. Zoning reform toolkit, also coming from the state level. It's just a discussion of, if you want more housing, what are your options for kind of helping to achieve that? This pattern book for the 21st century, this is something Michigan Municipal League has published. There are 6 free plans for different types of housing, including a nice little 650 square foot cottage that might be suitable for an ADU, or even for someone to live in. I live in a little house, I love it. Everything's cheap. A duplex, a quadplex, some things that might work here, even without having sewer infrastructure, because those can be done with septic. And some really good stuff, access to a couple of grants. So MISHDA, at the state level, very much recognize that we need more housing. So they've made grant funds available. This first one, this Housing Readiness Incentive Grant Program, I've seen some municipalities use that to, if you want to incorporate some changes to housing to in your zoning ordinances, and maybe your master plan kind of, that's the next step maybe with once you've approved your master plan. This is actually funding that a number of municipalities have used to pay a consultant. Just knowing that you guys probably all have, full-time jobs. A lot of those asked of planning commissions, and my guess is not a whole lot of reward. And there are a number of consultants. Beckett and Rader is one. Network Northwest is another that do consulting for master planning and zoning modifications. So there's funds available through the state if you decided that you wanted to engage some help. And then the other one that I wanted to bring to your attention is called MI Neighborhood. This is also through MISHDA. It can be used for new housing units. I'm sure there, usually with grants, there's a box, right? And you have to fit in the box. And also for public amenities, which is kind of interesting. So like if you wanted to do streetscaping as part of a way to help get more housing developed in a certain area, that would be one thing that could be used for. And I'm trying to watch my time here. This is really a slide about density. Density is limited without public sewer, but like even allowing ADUs, for instance, which I understand that is one of the allowed uses in certain areas, can help increase the density, gives you more tax revenue, makes use of the road infrastructure. This kind of, gives a nice analysis you know, how it might impact your tax revenue. Toolkit of tools, this is, I have an accounting background, so these tax abatements are really interesting to me. Again, one more way to catalyze housing. There are a number of different ones. They can be used for smaller developments as well as the larger ones. Tax abatements have been used forever for larger, you know, say 50-plus unit developments. There are a number of things that have been authorized at the state level, and then to use them at the local level, you'd have to, you know, put an ordinance in place for it, but it's an option. So again, it's just a toolkit that some of them may or may not be of interest. Housing North programs, again, a menu. The accessory dwelling units, we can give some guidance, and in that, you know, there's kind of a standard one in that Michigan Municipal League handout. We do have a regional housing partnership, again, kind of disseminating information from one municipality to the next. So if you have success stories, let me know. I'd like to I'll tell the rest of the group. So advocacy trainings, if you have opposition, for instance, that you think education might help with, like we can put a very fine point on the housing need in the area. Webinars, events, I'll be doing one on the 23rd with some emerging developer, that's targeted to emerging developers. We do advocate at the state level, also for policy and funding. And we will be having the annual Michigan Housing Summit in October. And I believe that's going to be in Traverse City. I'll have to get the details, but it's, you know, that 10-county area coming together. And that is the end of my presentation. So again, if there are things that piqued your interest, let me know. If I can help you with grant writing, I can offer that. And I thank you for your time.
Thanks.
When it does come out,
Yeah, you can have mine.
Yeah, happily pool them all.
So, all right, thank you very much for your presentation. We will add that to our future discussion. Just for a point note, on that, we, in our master plan, we have actually, our master plan does have future zoning for smaller properties to, you know, allow for more affordable housing, less of parcels, more residential. We have approved in the last recent few meetings a triplex, and there have been there's some duplexes going in. We did change in the last couple of years our minimum size structure in the zoning to 500 square feet, which is so yeah, we are quite aware that we do need to be a housing type of community here in this township. So yeah, we've been working in that direction.
They sound like they follow a lot of, I hesitate to say best practices, but some things that are, you know, many are adopting. So good work.
Thank you. Okay, so on to our work session. All right. Appreciate your time. On to our work session. Isaac, would you like to come up and share? Or run away. Yeah. Sadly. There I
Get
am.
your report will come loud and clear.
Perfect.
Things are working good. It's good.
All right.
Okay, Isaac Entz, Assessing and Zoning Assistant. So I put together a report talking about signs, content-based versus content-neutral regulations. And I did a review of the current sign ordinance to kind of highlight some stuff that would be considered content-based regulating, and also gave you some case law. Reed versus the Township of Gilbert is probably the most well-known case law pertaining to regulations of signs. So, yeah, any specific questions or points of discussion?
I looked through, and it was following through some of, what you had done myself.
Mm-hmm.
So on that first one that you did, and I didn't know if we were just, everybody want to kind of go through this in a, line by line scenario, suggestion wise, or,
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
I mean, just, if we're going to do it, we may as well start at,
Yeah.
I would suggest that we start on the highlighted subject that you have in there, and then if there is anything else on that page, we can address it if, people have found something else that they think should be different.
Yep.
On that first one, does anyone have any, the first highlighted page, does anyone have any thoughts on that particular line item that he highlighted?
My only question about that particular line is, what is the standard that it's being held to, as to what would be defined as obscene, indecent, or immoral?
Sure. Pat, do you want to specify on that, to answer that question?
My thought would be on safer grounds. If we struck out indecent and immoral matter, and just went with obscene, because obscene has been defined by the Supreme Court. So you did have to ticket somebody for something, and solid legal footing instead of having it struck down as unconstitutional. My thought on correct, making that one viable.
I had the same thought about it. Obscene is fine, but yeah, when immoral, I did, that was, who's to judge what immoral is?
Yeah, I agree, and I just think generally, just kind of going away from content neutral versus content based, I think the general provisions could be simplified, just because it is rather lengthy, and I feel like some of the bullet points almost act as a mission statement for the sign ordinance itself. So it just, I think it could be worked to make it more brief and simple in the future.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that particular line item?
So you're saying just get rid of the indecent and immoral part?
Yes.
Obviously, obscene sort of falls under indecent anyway, so.
Right, it kind of covers everything.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it. Seems like it should be.
So eliminate indecent or immoral.
Yep. Like it. Anyone else have anything on this page that they thought that might need changing or discussion? Okay.
I have a suggestion
Yes.
on the definition for abandoned signs, to add event signs. Events are typically dated, and so,
Oh, within that whole classification?
well, just within that section, right, because it says no ongoing business, product, location, service, idea, or activity, and perhaps clarify event, so that last year's Christmas event sign isn't still sitting out.
Mhm.
So you want to add it into which part of that statement, I
Oh, it
guess?
should be after idea, event or activity.
Okay.
With the same waiting period, 6 months after event?
Well, that's actually a good question, because then it does come up later about specific signs needing to be removed 10 days after the fact. So it was a thought. I don't know.
Well,
An event sign be considered abandoned.
right. There you go. I mean, you are classifying an abandoned sign, not necessarily, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point to make, Sarah. Just one of the things that again, this is kind of overall thought on the sign ordinance. It is a little confusing because there's special event signage requirements, temporary signage requirements, portable signage requirements. I just think that maybe in the future that could kind of be somehow grouped together, just because they're all seem relatively similar and they all have unique regulations as it stands now.
So, is that the, well, if we were on to the third page, is that part of what you're talking about, and, or you're just,
Again, that was kind of a general comment, but I guess it would be further down in the ordinance. So, say, for example, 6.6, temporary signs, portable signs, special event signs. It's a little confusing,
okay, back in the,
but
well, all right, let's not get ahead of
Sure.
ourselves on that. Let's go with that first correction, and how about we circle back to 6.2 after we get down the line a little ways and see if we can't modify that to work. Or just so we clarify whether we're gonna leave the days in there, 6 months or whatever, you know. So. Anybody else have any thoughts on that, first page? 6.1 and, 6.2 at the bottom? Okay. Let's go to the second page of, definitions. Did anybody find anything that they saw we should change on the second page of definitions?
How is an awning without signage considered a sign? The awning / canopy?
Projecting from and supported by the exterior wall
This
of the
section
building.
is definitions, and so there are some words worked in here that aren't necessarily signs.
I believe that you could put, the awning canopy first paragraph in with the second paragraph and make it one paragraph. Yeah. I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to explain what an awning canopy is, but really, I think you could probably put those two together and just make one lesser complicated statement. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Could backlit awning also be wrapped into that?
I suppose it could be. Think you can put all those in one paragraph?
yeah, potentially,
Cram all those together?
definitely awning dash canopy, awning sign dash canopy sign. Now, backlit, I think, could apply to other types of signs, not just awning.
It
So,
applies to the lighting category of
yeah, maybe you could just change that to backlit. I don't know. Just,
backlit signage.
just, yeah, something more general, because it is pretty specific.
Yeah. Actually sounds pretty good.
And just make it a definition for backlit.
Yeah, or like Colin said, backlit signage,
Backlit
just making it more general and less specific to awnings. Just because I think that could apply to like freestanding signs or other types of signage.
Right. Anybody else have any thoughts on that page? Okay. I mean, I think the intent here, I don't know how everybody else feels, but my thought on the intent was that we were gonna try to shrink down our signage ordinance and just combine where it needs to be combined, get rid of junk that, and just make it a little easier to read. Probably not perfect, and by any means, I did look at the other example that you lit for signage, and I do like the picture scenario that is in that one, but
Cover everything, but it is a nice, easy.
Yeah, I specifically gave you guys the Acme Township sign ordinance just because I thought they did a really good job of making it user-friendly. Say, for example, if a resident was reading the sign ordinance, they use pictures, they use descriptors. They don't even have a definition section of their sign ordinance, and I don't know. I think potentially that could be something worked out of ours, just because it is kind of redundant. Like, you know, you're reading through the ordinance, and all of a sudden you come back to definitions. It doesn't seem to flow very well. So anyway, just thought that the Acme Township was a good example of sign ordinance that does not use content-based regulating, and I thought it was pretty easy to follow, well organized, etc.
I concur, Isaac. And that was my initial thought going into this is we could just
scrap it.
steal it. You know, but something to keep in mind is, yes, this is a document that we refer to in making decisions, but with the public having access to this, it's a lot cleaner for them to be able to read and understand what's allowed.
It is.
It may present less questions coming to us in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just I like the layout of it. You know, most of the content is pretty similar to regulations we do have. Just laid out a different way, and I think a more user-friendly way. So yeah, I really like how they incorporated pictures and used descriptives, and each sign has kind of like a definition section. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I thought that could make the flow of our overall ordinance a lot better. So
I like it. I just figured it might, it might throw some backlash out there when people just totally go, what is this? Is not anything that I've been looking at for umpteen years. And
right.
So
Yeah.
I like it, but
Another thing that I just comment about the Acme Township ordinance is I believe they don't have any exemptions in there, which I don't know if you guys reviewed the section on exemptions, 6.3. Figured we're almost there once we get through definitions, but a lot of that is content based. So they don't have that, which I don't know. That's just another interesting point. They don't specify which signage is exempt, but they specify which signage is prohibited. So that's another major difference.
well, the exemption section by far is a mess, because it doesn't even agree with itself at times.
Right, and we can talk about that more when we get to that section.
I mean,
but-
how does everyone feel about, let's just go, how does everyone feel about this other example of?
We could schedule a public hearing on a generic version of Acme's and tweak it, after everyone looks at it real close, tweak it after the public hearing and send it to the board. Instead of having to go all the way through this.
That's what I mean. If we go through all of this and then we actually are gonna like this style anyway. I'm not opposed to this style, but it'll, you know, I mean, you're gonna have to do a fair amount of
Yeah, it's obviously big change.
rewrite for our benefit, or you know what I mean, for this township's benefit to, but I do, it's much easier.
Yeah, I personally thought that Acme's was a lot easier to follow than ours.
Yeah.
So
it
just
is.
personal thought.
It is. I'd love to get away from the, the square footage and the, yeah.
Does everyone pretty much share the opinion that the style of Acme's ordinance is something that we should aspire to?
Vastly superior.
Okay.
Because I think it's great. It is going to be a major project, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the way that you put that, Rick. The style. I really like the style and the flow and the ease of their ordinance. Obviously, there'd be a lot to figure out with dimensions and other sign requirements, but yeah, I think the general layout could be good. Maybe not the content exactly, but the general layout I really appreciate.
So timeline wise, if we said, okay, go ahead and try to write something up that's fairly similar to this and add applicable conditions for this township, you know, what kind of a timeline does that fair for you, I guess, in drafting something like that?
Yeah, it's tough. Just because, I mean, I think it could be done, a month might be pushing it, like say, for example, for next month's meeting. But 2, definitely, I think it could be done. Again, if there's going to be a public hearing, there's noticing requirements, et cetera, that would also have to be done.
Right.
So that would have to be done timely.
So, let's say we went ahead with that in a month, and not to push you, but to get somewhat of a draft going on it,
Mhm.
and then if there was good progress and we thought that that was heading in the right direction, then you could actually finish it up in the following and also have a public hearing planned for that following meeting, I guess.
Yeah, I think that would,
Reasonable?
yeah, that'd be what, looking at like
August, maybe.
August, September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
If we're gonna move that way, is there any reason, should we continue to go through and bid fiddle with these highlighted items, or should we just
No.
kind of wait until we migrate to the new style?
Well, we're either gonna work on this and we're gonna go towards fixing this, or I think we're gonna pick something. Otherwise, we're gonna waste a lot of
I
time.
think the Acme, yeah, I mean, the Acme thing, it's a lot easier to get to where you want to go, you know, if you're looking as a business or a person or whatever. So,
That's my ask of time, because if we're gonna go down this route and we're gonna change this, then we're asking you to spend a lot of time to change this, and then we're gonna look at it and go, you know, I
somebody
still
made a
like this
better
one over
wheel,
here
we'll just
better.
use the wheel.
I think it might be helpful, this is a suggestion, to use the existing document and extrapolate this data, like there is a zoning chart.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Just transfer it
and that
into
was-
format.
Yes.
yeah, that was kind of my thoughts, and I think Rick said it well. Like the style or the format is I guess preferred.
But maybe as you go and you're pulling data out of this document to strike through it, and then see what remains. You know, like this whole exemption section is probably not gonna go into the Acme styled document. And that would leave us with something to discuss, do we wanna keep what's left
Exemptions, yeah.
or scrap it?
Yeah, I think it would be worth it just to continue on the discussion regarding the current ordinance briefly today, just to kind of get more ideas for the sign
Right.
ordinance. I mean, like, I think we all kind of agree that the Acme style or like the Acme layout is kind of, would be helpful to everyone, residents, property
Well,
owners, et
it's not just the
cetera.
style, it's everything about how they have it laid out. It's much easier to,
Read.
if you look at it, I don't have to call you if I go through this, like, well, it says right here.
Right.
Exactly, you know,
Yeah, I just thought they did a good job of making everything clear.
yeah. Well, it might take them quite a while to do it. So.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable with the September date?
Yeah, I think that could be done. A month, like I said, probably would be pushing it, but
It is summer, that's my point. It's summer, sometimes it's hard to get everything done.
Well,
Timeframe, but I would, good, I'm glad we're not gonna go through and try to
well,
decide.
we are a little bit, I mean, if there are some, if we're still gonna do that, you wanna pull some
yeah, I think
content
just
off of this?
touching the major points, like if there's anything concerning to any member specifically, or like if you guys had thoughts.
Well, you determined when you were, highlighting these, ones in here that you're considering them to be content-based, and that we should either modify them or just eliminate them altogether. What if you were to take that, take those highlighted ones and just eliminate them out of the new? I mean, I guess instead of us saying, what I looked at on these is that we're telling people what they can't do. And what they do in this one is tell people what they can do.
Yes.
And so if you were to eliminate a lot of the can't do out of this thing, does anybody find any glaring can't do's in here? The whole exemption section, I really don't like.
Yeah, that, I think me and Pat were kind of talking about that earlier, and it does seem like that section is heavily content-based.
Well, if you
Yeah.
design it as what you can do, you don't have to have the opposite, so yeah, I mean, sort of self-explanatory.
I mean, I would, yeah, pull information from other parts of it other than the exemption section of
Sure.
it. So that we don't add an exemption section to our ordinance.
Mhm.
So are we gonna continue to walk through this?
Yeah, should we go through it one by one, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, maybe section by section quickly, but really I just want to get the overall, the big points. Again, I don't know if there was anything specific that any member had concerns about, or like other thoughts on, other ideas. Now's the time to talk about it.
Well, okay, so commemorative signs. Do we feel like we need to have something, do we feel like we need to address commemorative signs?
I was a little confused about this section. This is definitions, so this isn't saying whether something's allowed or not. And there are quite a few that are highlighted that I'm not quite sure why.
Sure. And again, I tried to highlight anything that could be like you could make an argument that that's content, regulating the content of a sign. I thought specifically saying commemorative sign could be regulating specific like message that the sign's trying to convey. But
That one to me makes sense, but then like the following one about a construction sign indicating a contractor that's doing work, is there anything related to the permitting process that would say that a contractor has to display that they're doing work?
not any requirements. I know a lot of ordinances, and our sign ordinance specifically, they have different regulations for off-premise advertising. So say, for example, like if that same sign was put at like a street corner, it'd be treated differently than if it's on-site, like advertising a construction project. So just to kind of give some insight on that.
Do you like it or don't like it, construction?
Um,
Or you just don't like it?
yeah, I'm not saying either way. I think that you could argue that that's regulating like a specific type of signs content. So I don't know if, just again, not to keep on going back to Acme, but it is a good example. I don't know if they have that specified. I don't think they do.
No. I guess I would I would lean away from this whole description section, definition section, because, yeah, we're just trying to define, a lot of common sense things, and then in defining these things, we're actually muddying up what you can do or can't do, because there's a lot of description within these definitions.
Right.
It's contradictory to what goes on later in the ordinance.
We should just get rid of the whole section.
Get rid of
Definitions.
Definitions altogether?
Yep. That's what it is for.
Oh, you're right about that.
Yeah, I think it could help, again, I think it could help the flow of the ordinance. I mean, it's always been kind of confusing to me why like signs has a lengthy definition section like right in the middle of the ordinance, because usually your definitions are before general provisions, like typically, that's how most zoning ordinances are laid out, so.
Do you happen to speak with the zoning administrator or the assessor in Acme in terms of like, how often do they get questions or that have to be defined through this ordinance that they have?
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but it would definitely be a great goal to have if, you know, we continue on with maybe using them as a format. Just to hear the experience with the day-to-day and what the enforcement's like and what kind of problems they have. That's definitely a good idea, Sarah.
How about with the definitions section of this ordinance? Instead of trying to ixnay it all or add this or that into it, in developing one based on this style, you know, pull out if you feel there's a time or a need in the description of any one of these particular sections, if you're doing it in that similar fashion, that, you know, pull out of this section of definitions, anything that pertain, you know, that.
Yeah, and I'm not
pertain to,
trying to
like-
get rid of the definitions, because I
Right.
think you still got to have definitions. I just think having a definition section is a little bit,
We can integrate these definitions into.
yeah, cumbersome or clunky, as far as just like the following, the flow and the direction of the zoning ordinance. So I think it would probably mean like some of the more important, definitions would stay, but there'd be, you know, more input like specifically to a sign type.
Yeah, you'll pull out things like
Say, like,
sign height,
Definition of banner.
electric signs, we have something in there, so I mean, it can be for, you know, the brightness of the illumination value of an electric sign. Or the flashing signs. I like all those. I don't think we need to describe directional signs, really. But I guess, does anybody have any glaring things in sign or in the descriptions section that, you know, should be added, should be stricken, or?
Thought on just the formatting of this new form that we're making. It might be easier for us to follow when you transfer some of our data to this new format. If we're color coded, hey, this is stuff I pulled from our existing standards that we have written, and, you know, other stuff that you've had to fill in maybe from Acme or whatever, coded differently, just so we can distinguish what's being changed wholly and what's just a transfer.
That would be excellent.
Yeah, my mistake on one thing, I mean, I seen the Acme, but I didn't realize that we'd be going to maybe adopting their format, period. I wasn't even thinking on that way. I was just thinking we're gonna address ours. So if you look at it that way, to me, it's a whole different way of approaching the situation.
It is.
Incorporating our stuff into it, and I have no problem with it. I think Acme's got a great job done on it. So do we really hash through our stuff, or we try to look at it, integrate what is missing, if it is at all, I mean, I didn't focus that much on Acme's, I'll be honest. I just looked it over and said, you know. But I didn't go in specifically saying, oh, I've got a business, I'm gonna look for this, tell me what I gotta do with my sign. I didn't go down that road. And that's where I get confused with other townships, because a lot of them don't have the greatest books, period.
Well, what questions do you have then specifically, you know, out of this I guess, let's go from that aspect.
Yeah, let's
What
work-
do you need to perform that, you know, that situation?
I guess I would like further clarification specifically, so are we good on definitions?
To kind of just pull out what is relevant and ixnay the rest of a definition section?
Yeah, I mean, pull out the important definitions, and then,
Yes.
I mean, some of the more specific ones definitely could, yeah, be thrown out, or,
How's everybody feel about that?
Well, where these definitions come from, sometimes we make them up, instead of just going to the book and saying, well, definition of a bush is this, you know?
Yeah, I know.
We designed that, and so if these have been pulled out of a standardized definition,
They've
then,
been carried along from old zoning ordinances and modified along the way and not really ever totally tackled because it was such a cumbersome ordinance that we always just sort of picked away at it.
Yeah.
Like the sandwich board subject or the, you know, inflated, ones with the air that go up in the air, you know.
Right.
We've kind of picked away at this thing over the years, but never really got into it because it is daunting and cumbersome and you have to have a mathematician to be able to go back.
yeah, and some things are all mixed into the whole, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Isaac, what criteria did you use to highlight the sections throughout?
yeah, so highlighted sections, I tried to pick out, hey, this for sure is content-based regulation, and I could have missed some. I think you can kind of make the argument on some of them it is or it isn't. So yeah, I may have missed a few, but yeah, just generally seeming if it isn't regulating time, place, manner, it's regulating a specific type of sign, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the definition doesn't define that, that's just a definition of what that is.
Yeah, and he was asking how I came up with the criteria
Right,
for
but
what to
I'm getting at-
highlight.
But we're going over these definitions, it's like, if you're gonna have them in there and they're a definition that's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, established, then,
We don't need to have it.
yeah,
There's no point in it.
there's no point in it.
Right.
It's more convoluted and more work for everyone.
So unless we got something unique, that we have to have a definition for it,
Yeah. I
a lot
mean,
less stuff in there.
My point was, if you were to take this document, take every area that's highlighted, and just delete them from the document
Mhm.
and reprint it, I suspect that without talking about transitioning to Acme.
Right, yeah, just the content.
I'll bet that this would probably scale down the whole signage that we have right now. At least put it in a manner that would make it easier to transfer
Hmm.
into the Acme kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And
but you can't just get rid of all those sections, some like the special event and temporary sign. You know, those are two that, he's got highlighted one, but not highlighting the other, but they really should just go into one.
I think our biggest part's gonna be transferring over, you know, they got the districts on what everything's, and looking that over.
Right.
But just for a working document, there's no reason you could not do that, and go back and if there
Add
are
back to
items
it.
that get deleted that should be back in, you can put them in. But
Well-
it still has to transition into this different style.
At this point, we have to be able to come up with something that we can give Isaac as a direction that
Yeah.
allows him to allows him to proceed and make something, you know, readable for us. So, you know, we all have to somewhat agree on how to, you know, what kind of direction we're gonna give Isaac for his own benefit. We can't just sort of say, you know, do this or do that. We have to, you know, so, anyone have any suggestions or ideas as to how Isaac should proceed in reformatting our sign ordinance? Let's go with a suggestion on, you know, I mean, we're talking about it, but.
Well, I guess mine would be, if you're gonna, I'll throw mine out there. I mean, if you look at Acme, if you just focus on that alone, and that, you know, each page, and wall signs, put it right up on top. They don't have definition wall sign, you just put name wall sign, and then the breakdown of it. The only thing you'd have to see is if there's a sign that we have that doesn't fit into their thing, a definition maybe that's not on theirs, projecting signs, marquee signs, and then just look through it in each district where it's got to go, if it fits our districts or not, because they've got different districts than we have.
Mm-hmm.
And just breaking down our numbers and putting them in their spots and just keeping it as simple as people. This really, I mean, if you want to take and find what you need to do as a business or a person, it's like, okay, well, large temporary sign, what's the definition of that? It says right here, blah, blah, blah. And then you can see where it'll fit and where it won't fit. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that. They've got it laid out really good. So I don't know, why would we exactly get rid of all the definitions out of ours? And basically just look at if there's any signs that they're missing in Acme that we have, or would fall outside the deal, and basically scrap all this other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a good job highlighting stuff. I just give them the discretion to take our information as best you can and extrapolate what
Plug it
needs to-
into the new
Yeah,
format.
and if not, like, you know, like I was saying, the color coding, or make a list
Yeah,
of stuff that
and-
we need to address.
Yeah.
Just don't stress about it too much, and we'll give you some direction once you've started.
Yeah, I like that suggestion about the color coding.
Brad, do you have any thoughts on?
I'm just looking like large temporary signs and small temporary signs. The whole fireworks thing could have been, this is so simple right here. Why are
Yeah.
we doing, I mean,
Yeah.
throw this away, copy and paste to this, take our standards and do it there. It's like doing job descriptions. Don't build your own.
Mhm.
You know,
Exactly.
find them from somewhere else.
Well,
Don't waste your time.
Perfect.
Asking
You
for
know.
the template.
Rick,
Yeah,
your thoughts on that?
yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that would make it easier and quicker for Isaac, and it'd still let us.
And for the public.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
Oh, yeah, that's,
This is so easy to look at right here.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed, honestly, when I got, when I was doing my research, looking at the different municipalities in the area's sign ordinance. I was really impressed with Acme, not to say they're perfect or anything, but I really like the layout, and yeah, I just think it
We
is
looked at it,
user-friendly.
quite a few different stuff, and nothing came up like this at all, so.
Sarah?
I agree with the idea of color coding as you're filling in the template. I would also suggest that in the original document to either delete out or strike through what you inserted so that the text that remains in the existing ordinance is left for us to discuss.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly, Sarah. You want me just to take the current ordinance, strike, like do a strike through on anything?
Anything you're transferring into the new document,
Okay,
strike through it, and then that would leave any text that didn't relate or
That
fit
didn't
into
make-
the new
yeah.
document, and then we can decide if
yeah, that's
If
an
we need to
interesting
add
approach.
in anything out of whatever's left is what you're,
I like
yeah.
that.
That's a good idea. Pat, what's your thoughts?
Great. This isn't for Isaac, but I know this,
But I agree with that. I love that idea. Yes, this format, plug and play out of ours. Roy, would you like to make a?
If it's okay with
Yes, you may.
So the history of that ordinance is reactionary. Every time there was a bad sign, there was a reaction to fix that bad sign. And that's been history, that's why it's so convoluted and long, so hell like it is now. I think what you don't want to do though, with this new ordinance, is make signs that are out there, a lot of them non-conforming. So it might pay, and we can talk to the supervisor about this, to do a slight inventory down here and down the highway, so the new ordinance will make a bunch of non-conforming.
Good idea.
Why would you make,
Yeah.
if this new ordinance makes half your signs
Mhm.
non-conforming already, that puts your business owners in a pickle to start with.
Yes.
The people that use that ordinance, that sign ordinance is for your business owners.
Yeah, I
Yes.
thumbed through it a little bit, and I agree with you on that.
Not so much the private citizen with the Sparta sign down
Right.
there, but it's the business owners that sign is their business.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's what draws people here and it draws you to your business, the most people that use that. You want to make what's a non-conforming by adopting the ordinance. So it might pay to do a quick inventory down here to see how many are already non-conforming. And if this new ordinance makes more of them non-conforming.
Right.
All of a sudden, if you're
Well, again,
saying
that's-
that's non-conforming, yours non-conforming.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, it's so simple, you just look at it, and say, okay, and look at the sign, I mean, it's all laid out there, it's like, well, that's
Yeah.
going up there with tape measure, it's like,
Well,
oh,
there's some non-conforming, but you're gonna have them.
Right.
oh, yeah,
You know, you still want to make a bunch of non-conforming.
no, that's.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting and a good idea, but just also to be clear, I wasn't planning on changing any of the dimensional requirements. I think some might need to change just with the general format, but just wasn't really looking to change like the dimensions used, just
Yeah.
layout and kind of some of the other factors.
Yes.
But that's a
But
good
you're
idea,
gonna-
Roy.
You're gonna
just-
change the layout of the, yeah, yeah. So,
If that became an issue, couldn't we just grandfather them?
They automatically are grandfathered. Just because you made them non-conforming, you can't make.
Well, you
them
can, I mean, you
Yeah.
look at the sizes and so forth.
they
just
are,
change
but
it
then
in
that
the-
becomes a convoluted mess, because if they ever move the sign or wanna try to, then you can say, well, now you've put up a different sign, or you've moved your, it's better to not go down that road of making them non-conforming in the first place, so.
Yeah.
But their
Yeah.
rules are pretty simple as far as size and location, we can just look at it as match ours,
Yeah.
you know, so,
Mhm.
yeah,
So,
pretty easy.
It
to
is a good
find.
idea, and part of that too, part of that format is, I see the sign, the ordinance that they use with the pictures, I believe those are probably a lot of the pictures that are in Acme Township itself. No?
Yeah, I think one of the
Think they really went
examples.
wide from it, I mean, I know there's some, but I figured there had to be some pictures from.
Yeah, one of the examples was in the city of Traverse City. I know that spot.
I know there's some out of there, but I do believe there's probably something fit in there to try to accommodate.
But yeah, who says they can't be? I mean, if it's a good illustrative description,
This looks like England.
But it allows you to, check the signs out and
yeah.
see if they fit.
Yeah, and I
within
think
that.
that is a really good idea, and something that needs to be done is a sign inventory, just a review of the signage in the township. I think that could also alleviate some of the issues with the current ordinance too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something I can kind of do in conjunction.
Yeah. So, that seems like a doable thing for.
Yeah, I
At
think
least
it's
have
something that really
something-
needs to be done if, we're gonna be changing, doing major changes to the sign ordinance. I think it's good to do some field work and review some of the currently existing signs. I think that's a really good idea.
That's just a major amount of work for you. so-
Yeah, and I'm not thinking going door to door, but I'm just thinking, maybe, because we do have pretty,
Yeah.
right, we have, just here at the township, one of the services the county, we're in agreement with is, we have like some really good aerial imagery that you can measure, height and, width on. I could probably measure basic dimensions and have them be pretty accurate from that. So doing that from the computer, it would be relatively accurate, dimensional information. So that could be another like workaround, just to make it quicker.
Before we have, because I invest a lot of time in this, does this change in format need to go through the board?
Not until we would have Isaac come up with the format, then we have to have the public's input on that, and once the public inputs on it, we then, if we like it, will vote to send it to the board, And the board can either throw it back at us and say they don't like it at all, or they can choose to accept it and make it so, but.
So you're taking a chance in spending a lot of his time.
We are, but that is part of what this board is. This is the board of, you know, this is the planning for the future and what is best for the township. The
I think
board
it'd be
may
a good chance that
disagree,
they
but,
would- Yeah, I think the board would,
I
they
really-
probably like it as much as we do.
yeah, I think the board is on par with dealing with this and stopping it from being such a contentious issue.
Well, we got one here, and he's not saying it's bad, so I guess that's a start.
Yeah, and with the master plan being adopted by the board earlier this month, it really is time to review the zoning ordinance and, you know, make any required changes. I think the sign ordinance would be a good place to start. I know it's not super crucial, like, you could really review like lot sizes, other stuff like that. But I think just with the current status of the sign ordinance, it's a great place to start.
Yeah, we talk about, we have a problem with the sign ordinance at least once a year, and we go through something that we don't like or somebody doesn't like, so I think it's a good idea to finally
Yeah, I mean, what
change it and stop
what
talking
do
about
you
it.
all think about that being kind of like the starting point to kind of review the current zoning ordinance and make some changes to it?
Yes,
Just,
I've never heard a positive thing about our present situation, honestly. So I think it's a great.
Well, the ones you don't hear, it's always positive.
yeah.
One thing I noticed in Acme that I really like that ours doesn't seem to address are the, you know, the page one, color, temperature, pole height.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's some good stuff if you're familiar with, you know, color temperatures of lights. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of what they have is really reasonable, makes sense.
No, they covered a lot.
Flag heights, I mean, we don't seem to.
yeah,
We don't seem to address that at all.
I don't think we do.
Which, you know,
We can have. the
Not
biggest
like
flag
that.
we want in our town.
right,
You see our
it could be,
TCH.
yeah.
I think that might be under a previous ordinance, like if you look at the way it's outlined, the signs start at 6.6. So that might be part of something else, 6.5. It's still great info, but I don't necessarily think it's part of the sign section.
Yeah, signs, I think, start at 6.6.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is good information that really is pertinent.
No, I'm talking, there is a flag 6614.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something for us to consider addressing. But anyway, just the first page has got a lot of great stuff.
Question I had is like the main section of their ordinance where they review the different type of the different types of sign. They more or less have 10. We have 7. 5 are the same. But do you like that they specify like large temporary event signs or like small temporary signs? Just because, again, you could say that's kind of specific, but do you like I guess what I'm asking is, do you like the 10 main types or headers that they have in their sign ordinance? Just, again, we have half of them. It looks like,
We have half of them, but ours tend to get wordier and.
Right.
And we have, you know,
Yeah, I don't know if we have to differentiate between large and small temporary
Mhm.
signs, do we?
I think if there any.
Well, I guess you gotta look at the breakdown of what-
Come out when you try to-
We don't have that.
They might have ran into it, and that's why they did.
let's use their format and plug in our information and
Okay.
use the color codes and use the,
You could have either
use the, you know,
ask
what's
them.
left over back to us, and at least that way we can look at something. If there's something we need to add, change, we can do it. And, you know, it should make it really easy for us to determine what's in there and what's not in there that's new.
yeah, and just a point of direction
Yeah.
for staff. So would 6.3, would that just be removed altogether, exemptions? I know we kind of discussed it earlier, but just to kind of give me like a solid direction or idea.
6.3 on the Acme one?
Current,
The exemptions?
Ours?
yeah, exemptions. just-
Yeah, just get rid of
Oh.
it.
Because I figured that seemed like that's where a lot of that content-based regulation lied, was in
Yeah.
that section, just,
I mean, it's one way of looking at it, the backside of it. If it's approved, then why do you have to throw in?
right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, on some of the stuff, it's only an issue when you actually put it on paper. You
Mhm.
know, like the flag of the state of Michigan and United States flag. Why do we even need to talk about them?
Mhm.
They're not an issue unless we make them an issue by writing them down, so.
Yeah, I really thought just to kind of run through the remaining sections real quick, I kind of thought 6.4 could be in general provisions, just because it seems like a broad statement that could apply to all signs. So I don't know why it's like specifically placed in the ordinance. So it just, again, I think that's more of a general provision, in my opinion.
Yes.
All right, 6.5, I think they kind of utilize a prohibited sign section. Was there any concern specifically about prohibited signs? Because I kind of thought exterior string lights, like that, it doesn't really seem like a sign. It seems more like holiday decorations potentially. So,
I didn't like that one. I didn't like fluttering ribbons.
are you saying to like you don't
Well,
like
just-
those sign types, or you don't like that regulation?
I just didn't like the regulation at all. Like you said, exterior string lights, sounds like Christmas lights, and we're gonna have a, you know, exemption, on the exemptions page, you can have Christmas lights. On this one, it sort of says you
Right.
can't have Christmas lights.
And I mean, I think some of the points in 6.5 could be, you know, put together. I kind of thought like 13 through 12, they were all kind of similar, and I don't know, could be combined maybe. And then also like 21 seems awful similar to that too. So not to,
Yeah, if you could combine them together, that's great, if you don't even need to extrapolate.
yeah, and just like 27 could probably go with 3 because they're both talking about flashing signs and stuff like that, you know,
Right.
signs that utilize flashing.
Yeah.
So just, I thought that could be, you know, made shorter by just kind of streamlining some of the points. You know, combining similar prohibited sign types.
You know, no pennant, parasite, or accessory signs shall be secured to any other sign. What exactly
How about this one?
does that mean? I think that's just not necessary.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, A-frame signs, I just kind of was like, I don't know, is that, just seems kind of specific. I guess I don't really understand why that type of signage specifically is prohibited. Just,
I think you're gonna have to pick out, when you match up with this format, I think you're gonna have to just pick out the specifics that seem
yeah, I mean,
pertinent over here, and
a
then a
good-
lot of this is gonna have to just be left over.
yeah, good direction for staff would be like, is there specific prohibited sign types we want to keep? I figured like some of them are obvious, like the over the street banners, like we probably want to keep that prohibited.
Well, yeah, again, you're bringing that stuff up, so, you know, you bring it, I was just trying to look through to see what they have to say on something like that, and, you know, taking electronic message signs, it gets right down to it. Animated, pulsing, streaming, flashing, scrolling signs are prohibited, so they're throwing it underneath that particular sign, which is a great breakdown. It's like, okay, this is my sign, what can I do with it? Nope, I can't do that. So it just makes it so much simpler instead of trying to go through the other crap.
Yeah, so, yeah, was there like specific
Ones that we don't.
prohibited that we want to keep?
Prohibited, I mean, I would think of a theme of, does it impair vision? Does it affect
Right.
safety? Like, those general themes,
Mm-hmm.
does it pose a risk to the public? So, and some of the numbers that you mentioned, they do speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be appropriate to keep them.
Yeah, and some of those are good, again, like the over the street signage, you know, that could be a safety hazard, so we probably want to keep that.
That wouldn't be their property to put signage on anyway, right?
Right.
So that
Yeah.
would be illegal.
Yeah, so you could also say that's redundant. mirrors, do we want to keep mirrors in there? I don't know, how do you guys feel about Apple fence sign? Because that kind of utilizes some mirror type.
Well, this says mirrors.
That's just.
Those are just shiny.
Sure.
Doesn't mean they're a mirror. So I would keep the mirror one in there because I think it would cut down directly on a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep that in there. I would get rid of 15 altogether.
Yep.
You're in prohibition or prohibited signs, and then this tells you what you can do.
Yeah, that is confusing.
Dumb.
You said get rid of 15, the off-premise advertising?
Get rid of, yeah, I'd just get rid of it.
Okay,
I mean, it's telling you what you can do.
sure.
Not, we're already in prohibited signs, and then it tells you what you can do. That's not
Yeah, so like,
relative.
just kind of making a running list, two of what to, definitely not include. 215,
I don't understand how 17 is even a sign.
yeah, and I mean,
That's just.
I think, I think 17 could even be combined with another section, because there's something very similar.
People have done that. Put stuff on trees?
Yeah,
I
seven,
mean,
yeah.
that's not a sign, it's just people throw garbage up.
Posters
Well,
and
no, 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 I've
handbills.
seen signs put on it, for
Yeah, you could almost add like
advertising.
light poles or utility poles to that, just because you do see a lot of people throw signage on utility poles.
Yeah.
when you don't do it, then you gotta make the.
But if we're getting rid of that, I guess 17, what are the thoughts?
I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but
I'd just get rid of it. You hardly ever see it.
Yeah,
All down the side of my golf course, someone went through this winter buying used metal with a phone number on it. Tink, 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 trees and everything.
and those are all signs.
All the way down.
Yep.
All right, Brad.
There were about
I'll-
6 or
I'll
7
take them
of
down,
them.
Brad.
I pulled them off.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Again, that's trespassing, putting on, I mean, how's that?
That it.
Well, not really, so in the
That's
right
an
way.
easement, most likely,
Is it?
but
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do they have access to that easement?
Yeah.
Utility easement.
that's a
Yeah.
public easement.
Well, I think you should keep something in there about signs and trees.
okay, I just think 14 and 17 could probably be combined. What are your thoughts?
All right.
Yes,
Just,
Like it.
agreed.
and I think, I don't know, what is the thought about like the utility pole? Just, I'm surprised it's not included in that, because you do see people like do advertising on utility poles or light poles, just, it seems like that could almost be similar to like someone placing an advertisement on a tree or just,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that part, but a lot of times that sort of stuff is, somebody lost their dog or whatever. I mean,
yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, I'll try to combine those.
how about an ad, for profit? I don't know if it's something else. I don't know. That'd be a tough one to self-define.
Yeah.
but-
Anybody else got anything in there they don't like?
Product signs, that needs to go.
Product signs? Oh, I had a little notation here, stupid. So, that's how I feel about that one.
You forget the old,
No one can say that the fruit stand can't have a thing on top of their tray, which is out near the road, that says cucumbers, because that's a sign, and you can't advertise your products on that sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Why do we need to regulate down to that level?
Well, and 23 then is similar, because that's saying you can't put a sign on a vehicle.
Yeah, I did the same thing too. I had that too.
well, there you go,
Yeah.
the product sign, though, it's like, how far can it go?
Well, the guy painted his, well, I think the problem with the sign on the vehicles one is that if it's a licensed vehicle and it has a plate on it and it's legal to go down the road, then I'm sorry, you can't nitro wrap your vehicle because it's a prohibited product sign. You can't do it. So, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's too.
okay, so just a running list, it looks like maybe getting rid of 2, 9, 15, 18, 23. I mean, 25, I guess, again, that's kind of like safety related. It just seems oddly specific.
I like to get rid of stop signs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, redundant.
24 and 28 aren't those the same thing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think those could probably be combined.
Yes,
What are you thinking?
yep.
Okay. All right. That gives me a good idea on that section, at least.
Okay. Perfect.
Put 26 and 27 together as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah, you
think
could.
they could probably, again, 27 and 3, again, that's another one. Kind of similar, so.
You didn't have a lot in signs allowed with permit. But
Yeah.
I see that there's a fair amount of numbers that are based in with that section. I think best to just pick through that one, and just pick out, when you apply it to this other version, pick out what you, because this other version has most of what needs to be said in there. Just
Right.
pick out the heights and distance requirements out of that section.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem right?
I don't know if you picked up on number 19 under the prohibited about roof signs,
Which one?
number 19 referencing roof signs, I think that can be struck.
Yeah,
There is another.
yeah, and that's a great point. I was gonna say that, just,
Okay.
but yeah, it's really funny that that's right there, and then flip over the page. Yeah, roof signs. So anyway, yeah, I can. Yeah, but as far as removing roof signs from 6.5, everyone on the same page with that,
I
or
agree.
do you think
'Cause
that
it-
should still
yeah, I
be
agree.
prohibited?
Right, and we have the criteria listed somewhere else about where you can.
Yeah, it's contradictory. So.
What's a home occupation?
It would be to signify your home-based business. There-
Babysitting.
Yeah, babysitting is probably the most common. I think we even had at one point in time, someone had a license for a home occupation that did haircutting in their house. So it'd be like putting out a sign to mark,
Out of your home.
yeah, to mark that. Okay, 6.7, electrical regulations applying to all signs.
The only other one I had was that, on that special event signs.
Oh, okay, yep.
You've got at the top, it's got no single side may exceed 24 square feet. And then we had down here, with this permit temporary basis not to exceed 30 days, not to exceed 12 square feet. It should still be 24 square feet, I believe. And then at the end of the bottom, we have Christmas tree, fruit and/or vegetable stands, art fairs, antique automobile or vehicles. And then in there, I believe then we should have fireworks.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know, I was like, again, I'm kind of still stuck on the difference between a temporary sign and a special event sign. I think,
I just meant if you pull any of that, yes, I don't believe they should be separate sections. I just believe if you're kind of adding and you know, I was just looking at the numbers, 24 and
Yeah.
12, and they should be one, and then just making sure that we covered the
Right.
fireworks in there.
Yeah, picking out some of the more important parts and doing some
We're gonna deal with
wordsmithing.
it every year, so they might as well be listed, that they'll be there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you could even mention like farmer's market too, because
Yeah,
there you go.
part of our, what we're gonna do every year.
Okay. Anything else on 6.6?
No, I don't think so. 6.7, does anybody have any issues?
So references wattage, really should be lumens, depending on the light source. And I think the Acme stuff does a much better job of addressing this than what we currently have. Just the types of lights, color, temperature.
Yeah, you can change the wattage to lumens, and then I see down here on this metal halide lighting one, then that one talks about luminaries.
Yeah, that falls right under next to your lighting, so, I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
the sign should follow this and move with that, I guess.
should.
Need to be interfered with. So we must meet our current lighting rules.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The lighting will address
Doesn't matter.
What's a what?
variable.
What's a what?
What's an incandescent bulb?
Something nobody has anymore.
They're gone.
Do our lighting standards address color temperature or bulb types? I mean, they'll probably do luminosity, but probably not those, right?
Probably not, but
It would be important to address those.
it wouldn't hurt if you did pull out of this Acme section a little bit on the color, temperature, and type of lighting, even though it isn't, you know, even though it's a little bit of a different section, not in signs, but at least if you felt you could reference and include that in there.
Yeah,
All that stuff.
that's from 6.5.
Yeah,
What can,
Yep.
it does have good information about the lighting situation.
What about, so are we good on 6.7, everyone?
I think so.
yeah.
We would keep that one pretty good for a while.
So as far as the table of sign regulations, again, I think breaking this out to each sign type, having their own page, kind of similar to how Acme did it. Do you see anything that should be added to the potential chart? I know, one suggestion was maybe to add like common dimensions, just again, as a method of maybe helping applicants.
Well, you're talking about,
But if you get back to the Acme, it's got the dimensions right on it, it's a lot easier. By size.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I guess I was thinking like, hey, maybe taking the information of 6.8 and some of 6.6 and kind of making each, sign type their own page. But is there anything that you think should be added to their chart? Because theirs is pretty detailed, but I just,
That's gonna be, I mean, to find that right now, that's, to me, that's gonna be a tough one.
mhm.
I think we'll find some holes in there, need to be filled.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I wouldn't add right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Time will tell us that, we'll have to see what the heck the numbers meant together.
Okay, but yeah, just to kind of cover 6.8, that's kind of the approach I'm going to take. Any other input on that part? Okay.
Yeah, just trying to bringing the numbers over, not changing.
Yes, yep. Okay, again, setbacks, 6.9, that's discussed, on, like, each page specifically. Again, I think it's laid out nice in the chart. But yes, using the currently existing setbacks we have now, just keeping them dimensionally unless there's any thought of changing them.
Let's get it put into the, well, I don't think we should try to change it now.
Okay,
I mean-
awesome. I just wanted to make sure, but yeah, again, the approach is to kind of take the information in 6.9 and make it more of a chart, just so it's easier for everyone to follow. So if that sounds good to you, that sounds good to me. Okay, moving on to nonconformity or nonconforming signs. Any thoughts on nonconforming signs?
I just say integrate the necessary information to fit within each of these sections, you know, each of the descriptions in these sections. If something gets left out, we'll see it when, after, you know, you either pull information out or leave it, and then we can decide whether it really should be relevant or not, but I think you almost have to see how everything fits together once you put something in there.
Yeah, especially with a topic like nonconformities, because it's
Most of the stuff we've gone over, a lot of it.
Yep, that's,
Mhm.
Abandoned non-conforming signs.
right.
that's back to what you can't do instead of what you can do.
Should've been taken down already.
Okay, so, yeah, it kind of gives me a direction for non-conforming signs. Moving on to 11, permits.
I think we should leave that the same.
Yeah, I have no problem with changing it. I think it's,
Process worked great.
yeah, it's important to have that in there. So is everyone kind of agreeing no change on that? Or if there is any, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be something on your end if there's something you didn't like. about the process.
Yeah, again, I can kind of, the whole, one thing is like bringing in two print sketches or scaled drawings. I mean, that kind of, I think we could maybe relax on that, but
Well, one for you to keep as a record, so you can say that matches what you told me.
yeah, I guess that might be the intent, but I don't know, just,
Back out there and it's like, well, I thought you told me that.
yeah, again, usually what they submit, it's redundant that they're submitting two copies of it. I just,
If you want to relax it, I don't see why it couldn't be relaxed.
yeah, that'd be
that way.
really the only change that
Paperwork Reduction Act.
yeah. So, yeah, as far as permitting, I think the application and everything are,
Accept electronic copies of prints or sketches?
yes,
Okay,
yep.
so maybe something in that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that is something I do want to add, that, now that you made me think of it. Just because, you know, when, like, say, a business, they usually pay a company to professionally prepare or draft a sign, so, yeah, there's like a PDF. Usually a site plan also goes with that too, so that's a good thing to specify and maybe add to that, I think, just because,
Yeah.
you know, email is so common nowadays, so.
Yep.
Okay. 12, any thoughts? Again, I think that kind of could be one that we don't change,
I just leave it alone too.
so,
It just, all it's saying is it gives you the power to authorize and. Yeah.
right. Cool. All right, yeah, I think going through that kind of gave me a good idea. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I like it. personally like to thank everybody for actually putting forth good ideas, and, I mean, this has been like a long-running issue that we have never solved, and we just try to keep solving who's screaming the loudest, so I think this is a great direction towards actually solving something.
Yeah, I mean, good job on bringing that active stuff. That's a good catalyst.
Yeah, again, I did look at a bunch of different zoning ordinances in the area, and I kept on going back to that one as being, wow, this is really great work. I'm not
Okay.
sure if they had like a professional or that was all staff driven. Yeah,
Yeah?
but I just think that layout
Somebody else.
generally could be a good goal for us to have. So I'm kind of looking at that as the goal. Hopefully you guys kind of agree, share the same thought on that.
Yeah?
But I think keeping with the current regulations we have is good for now, unless there's something specific. Again, I'll review some of the currently existing signs and kind of do an inventory of what's out there, and maybe do a report back to the Planning Commission. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. We don't need a motion, that was just a
Nope.
work session.
Just,
so,
yeah, work session.
Just a direction. All right, moving on to liaison report from the zoning board of appeals. Was there a meeting?
Everybody was happy, nobody came to them.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I just want to add, you brought the ZBA handbook to my attention, and I did email that out to the ZBA members. Just, I was able to find that, so, yeah. Yeah, the one that I found was Michigan Municipal League. They usually have pretty good stuff. But yeah, anyway, good find, John.
All right, liaison report from Board of Trustees.
The board approved the recommended changes regarding the park model and trailers. A little bit of tweaking, but generally, they put it all.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I guess just want to add, they also adopted the master plan,
Yeah.
and there was one proposed change to add language. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, we will promote use of, I think it was upscale rustic or classic rustic architecture. You know, so like metal roof, river rock, exposed wood, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just one sentence. And again, I think the major idea behind that was when they were building the library, they didn't go with the first plan because it wasn't rustic enough. So that's, I guess, kind of how the library got its look. And it was reused from the 2011 Gibbs master plan. So there was like existing language in the master plan that we were able to reuse. So that was the only change.
All right.
So yeah, good work on that, everyone.
Anything else, Pat? All right. Good deal, thank you. Moving on to second public comment. Roy, you gonna comment? 10-4. No public. Discussion. I think we've done that. Adjournment, somebody like to?
Actually, no, I would like to discuss
Oh, yeah.
something.
Yep.
And Isaac, thank you for this.
Yeah.
I think we have a real storm ahead of us. And the reason I'm coming at this from a business person standpoint, and, all right, let's start out with COVID in 2020. 2021, it still wasn't good. 2022 was fantastic. 2023, we had part of the state park shut down here. 2024, we have a lot of the state park shut down. Now you're going to have the road out for 2 years. So you're going to have 1 year in the last 7 years in this township for our businesses to do well. And not many of you own restaurants and all that, but I'm telling you, your margins in that industry are super small. Your carrying costs don't go away, your fixed costs don't go away. It's basically on your volume. And I've talked with a couple grocery store owners, Olson's, and how much it affected their business. I mean, it was between 20 and 30% of their business, their revenue. And I'm worried, we want to be pro-business here, right? That's what driving people here. And there's going to be businesses that are going to go out of business here, bar none. When you shut this road down, when you get all these detours going around, they're not going to make it. They're not. Because they don't have that funding behind them.
So what's your suggestion? You think you're trying to stop them?
No. I'm all for this. But when I went to this meeting in 2020, last summer, right? 2023, it was a 1-year project.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 1 year. And also, it wasn't announced last summer that the state park was going to be shut down. That just happened over the wintertime, correct? Well, but this one was major. I mean, you're talking thousands of people not being here. Right, but, still, so that's 2 years of, ask any business going down this road how their businesses are doing right now. And I can tell you, they're not doing good. Their food sales are down. Their liquor sales are down. Everything's down. And it's going to be nothing but get worse. And what I'm concerned about is there is not okay, so this is the state of Michigan, right? Running these parks, running the highways. They can't get their act together to mitigate the effects on these things that are going to ultimately affect a person's business and whether they can even keep the doors open. And I don't know what to do, but I mean, I am all for this. I am all for that roundabout. I had an employee killed there, And one of the worst days that I can remember, finding that out, on December 16th. I know that's to today. And it has to be done. However, I mean, come on. This is a small township. I mean, things shouldn't, you should be able to have your stuff in order to make all these things happen in all this time. But you're talking a 7-year period of time. You have 1 year that you haven't had something affect you. Do any of you want to own a business and have that happen? I was not able to be here for that Tuesday meeting because obviously I've had things going on over at the golf course and restaurant. But when I find out they're going to do this for 2 years after they said 1 year, I got a problem.
Well, I'm going to be in the same boat.
You're in the same boat, yep.
But the problem is, what can we do about it? That's the whole thing. I mean, I get
We have a voice, and I think our township needs to have a voice in this, whether it's the planning commission, whether it's the board of directors.
Well, the board of directors would have to, and again, it came up real quick again on this.
It did really quick. I
couldn't
mean,
make it.
yep.
I could just,
It was, a couple of days? Advance notice. I mean, I got it from MDOT in my mailbox on that Tuesday at noon.
Afterwards.
Yeah. And I mean, so,
That way you know it's fine there.
this is,
You have
I'm gonna
any-
be
you have any
okay.
weigh in, Roy?
but I'm just saying, this is not fair to this business community.
So that's the first I heard. What's the time frame that they're
Well, they
proposing
can't
now?
stop there. I mean, what are they doing for, I don't know how long
Well-
they're working it out.
What they do next summer, from what I understand, is not gonna be all summer long.
But you
They
gotta
are
find
gonna
what
hand,
they gotta-
of what
they
I,
gotta get there.
what I understand, they're gonna do these mucking things, right?
Around.
And they're gonna work on the county road sections. So I don't believe that's gonna take all summer on that highway, only a portion of time.
They plan on getting the roundabout done by
And
next year.
they're gonna do that one too. So they're gonna do the mucking and the roundabout.
And the mucking's gonna shut the road down. When they build the roundabout, it goes from here all the way down to 3 lanes.
So people come from Benzie
Yeah, and next year they're gonna do the same thing.
and then have to go back.
Yeah, next year they're gonna take it out, everything completed.
Uh-huh.
And this time they're gonna keep all the traffic heading west, we're gonna keep that one lane open, kinda like what they did downtown. when they
Mhm.
did, you know,
One lane takes a detour.
Yeah, they keep one way open. And your traffic heading east, you can go the roundabout. But when they shut it down, they shut down these bridges first, or where they gotta mark it before they
Mhm.
mark it out. Then they're gonna open up one lane when they do that, when they build
Roundabout.
this 3-lane section here.
So I,
Definitely gonna be a nightmare, I mean, no doubt about it. All the side
I-
roads are gonna be crazy.
My suggestion is, show up at the next council meeting, Matt will be there, and just get up there, you got 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Well, I'll do it.
well,
But-
actually, maybe there's,
If you want your say, that's a great time to have your say.
and maybe there's a program available that can help fund local business.
They usually do get.
There's not.
No, you've already checked.
I've already
Yeah,
checked. There's
okay.
nothing. There's nothing. No.
Well, I know they've done it for other places in the city.
Business disruption insurance does not apply for this.
It's not
No.
insurance, it's usually grants or whatever, I know they're not. It's just the problem, the state is finding where it came from.
Well, my issue is we just found out about this meeting like a handful of days prior to, you know, and I mean, that's not, because they're not hearing from us. Because we don't have a chance to get there. We, you know, I mean,
But you know why it was changed? I was at the meetings, and I do recall them saying 1 year.
mm-hmm,
And I just kind of listened to them at the last one, said, okay, then they're gonna,
Quite frankly, I'm sure it has a lot to do with money.
might want, well, everything has to do with money.
Right.
I'm sure that's a big part of it, but the communication probably could have been substantial.
It's gonna be far worse than that, it always is, once they start doing it.
Yeah.
They're gonna find problems, it's gonna probably delay it even more. I mean, look at that Diamond Park one, it's supposed to be a month or so, and it's now 7 months or something. So, yeah, who knows if it's gonna meet the criteria, they're even saying in 2 years.
and it's gonna be awful for you, for people trying to get in that. I mean, it's as bad as it's terrible as it is now.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, I get my opinion of those meetings that they have, and I don't, trying to be a realist about it, but my opinion of those meetings is they're just coming to let you know what they're gonna do.
Yeah. We've already made our minds up,
I
we
mean,
weren't listening. but-
It's already done, it's already a done deal. You're just hearing about what they're gonna
Maybe we
do.
could take and request the MDOT guy to come to the board meeting next time around, and get a little more clarification, and voice the opinions on that. And one guy was pretty good about coming out, whether or not, I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
no, they were good in the first meeting too, you know, in the last summer. It was
Give us
good.
a little bit of assurance on what possibly can be done, because obviously this is a great disruption.
They are trying to take
huge.
public input actually on, situations along the road, and they really are trying to. At the end of the day, what you're gonna do to a road, you're gonna do a major reconstruction on a road that is super busy, and it should have been done about 20 years ago. And we're we're all gonna suffer through. So the real question is there some way to help people out along the way? Because
And the fact there needs to be some cohesion between these departments too, trying to do all this stuff, not shutting down these huge tourist places. I mean, the
Yeah.
state park is huge here for us.
I don't know.
Yeah,
who
you know, I
thought
mean,
that was
come
a
on.
good
I
idea.
mean, it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
We have a north and south park. They could have spread that one out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, well,
Yep.
there aren't gonna be as many businesses in 2 or 3 years. There's no way.
Would you
They won't
like
make it.
to invite them to a meeting?
If you want my personal opinion, I think our leadership in this township should be on this, and they should be Board of Trustees, Marv, whoever it is. I mean, but have they even gotten the information? Maybe, they may not have either. I mean, probably not, Roy, right?
Not the 2-year thing, that was a total, like,
Yeah, and, You know, I think that, I think somebody's feet need to be held against the fire here on this one a little bit, and the business owners really, really need to be able to be heard on this and not given 2 days' notice or 1 day or after the fact.
Well, Pat, you're our liaison to the main board. Is there, could you,
Here about the 2 years, I mean, other than it rolling past the end of 2025, somebody say it's gonna last all the way through the summer of 2026?
yes.
It's on the timeline.
And there was an article that Vicar
Mhm.
Yep.
about that.
They're gonna do these main 3 things and the county roads next year, and then on 26, they're gonna do the main line coming from cherry growers and just do main line coming down through. So it will be, yeah, 2 full years of fun
They're going to improve Riley though.
and that's helpful.
Are they doing anything
That
with
was kind of his
the East Duck
response
Lake
too.
Road intersection in 31? They
They're gonna revamp it so that it becomes more of a straight, you can't fly through the corner anymore. They're gonna make it so that it's
do away with it?
squared up. No, they're gonna keep it because it would force a ton of traffic down,
Pine Tree.
Pine
yep.
Tree.
Good.
So they're gonna square it off.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Well-
just want to make everybody clear, though, I am not against this project. I am 100% for it. I just don't like how it's all,
They're not giving us a lot of information.
no, and it's not fair to us.
Right.
It is not.
Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made, seconded by Richard. Rick.
And then Clint made the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that's good.
John was getting that.
He's walking away anyway.